Welcome, Cosmic Souls. I'm Joy, an energy intuitive and collective empath, and I'm here to deliver this timeless reading of the divine energies. Basically, I receive messages from Spirit to pick you up, dust you off, and get you moving forward again. So let's see what we've got going on here today. When I was meditating on what would be most beneficial for you to hear today, what came through was frequency and keeping our frequencies in a higher state so that we can radiate and ripple out and help others rather than just, wallow in misery together kind of thing. So let's see. Remember, if this message doesn't resonate with you or your situation, leave it for those it is meant for. So let's begin. Sorry, there's a bit of noise in the background. Shifting the blame. Accept others for who they are. Yeah, that goes back to not blaming everyone for how the world is going or your life is going in particular, right? We have a tendency to outsource that to other people, to say, oh, it's their fault because of this, it's their fault that I'm not getting this, or I can't do that, or whatever. And you're just projecting that outward. You've chosen that, and you need to figure out why you've chosen that. Peace of mind. Seek satisfaction beyond frustration. Yes, you can sit around and be frustrated with people and world events and everything else all the time, but that just messes with you, right? That messes with the blue, the throat chakra, your ability to express your authenticity, right? Anointed with love. Let sweetness invigorate your life. Yes. So there again, that's the point of not letting world events or even events going on in your own household half the time to bring you down. We feel like we have to be guilty if anyone on the planet is having a rough time, and we are trying to be happy, or if we're in love and anyone in the world is suffering, you can't possibly do that. I mean, that's the rationale, and that's baloney, isn't it? At that point, then no one would ever be happy. So the point of it would be that we need to hold compassion, but not necessarily wallow or commiserate with them at the same time. I mean, that's ridiculous. The way to help someone the best is to show them that they don't have to be necessarily wallowing in their misery. That yes, when something happens, if there's that actual thing happens, although we never know if it's for better or worse, do we? Not until hindsight. Something that seemed really terrible at the time is 10 years later could have been the best thing that ever happened. Oh, I lost a job. Oh, I got divorced. Oh, I moved and sorry about the fly. I moved and had to start all over. But then 10 years later, you're like, wow, that if I hadn't moved, or I hadn't divorced, or I hadn't changed jobs, or whatever, XYZ wouldn't have happened. Nothing is perfect. Release perfection and strive for excellence. Exactly. So where this is going with the cards right now, to keep our frequencies higher in spite of what's swirling around us, or masses of people having a rough time in the world, and we feel like we need to bleed or open a vein anytime we hear about it. with the connectivity going on today, you're going to hear about that every day, right? Every day someone dies, every day someone's born. There's, something of a balance going on with this. And yes, you can hold compassion and you can do what you can do to help them. But beyond that, it's ridiculous to feel guilty for not sharing their same um, situation, right? You can feel bad that you feel love. That's ridiculous. That's what the world needs more of, is love, right? Coping with grief, turning loss into gain. Exactly. What can you possibly learn from the negative situation, right? Your house burned down. Okay, you gotta go live with relatives. Seems pretty bad at the moment, right? Well, maybe you needed to fix a relationship with your relative. Maybe you needed to move to a different location. Maybe something needed to change, and that situation brought it into light and focused it. I mean, you're not going to know until sometimes years later, if something was good or bad. Pursue your dream. Have faith in your intuition. You never know how things are going to play out, and whether or not something is really good or bad. Just, if a bunch of emotions come up, let them move through, process them, let them move through. Most emotions, whether it's anger, love, sadness, they don't stick around for very long, or even love. It's an emotional wave of energy moving through you is what emotions are. And it's, you can't hold it or repel it. You just got to let it through. You're a conduit, right? Remembering that nothing's perfect. You don't want to, focus on all the negatives in your life. You want to focus on, hey, this is doing better. I can have peace of mind. I don't need to be frustrated about this person or this situation constantly. I can just let that go, and it is what it is, and figure out, if you're grieving for something, what can you learn from it, right? I mean, we look at things as loss, but sometimes it's a lightening of the load. And as far as losing a person, you never really lose them. You hold them in your heart, and eventually you'll be crossing that veil too, and you'll probably meet that energy again if you can't connect with it now. And a lot of people can connect with the energies that their loved ones projected, and you can communicate with them. That's what psychic mediums do, is kind of help facilitate that. But anyway, trying to find a little sweetness in your life and not feeling guilty for your simple pleasures, and even joy and happiness and dancing and singing and laughing, right? If anything, it helps to balance all the dark in the world. So we should never feel guilty about positive emotions, right? Courage, bravery, love, peace, wisdom, all the higher emotions, right? Guilt just brings it back down, and our societies in the West especially make you feel guilty for being happy about anything, and that's ridiculous. And all that does is help to add to the negative frequency of what's going on in the world. You want to counteract that, not join in. So let's see what we've got here. Endless possibilities. Yes. So that's where we're at right now. We're trying to bring in this fifth density, this higher frequency to the planet, letting go of our petty frustrations that hit us daily, cope with any grief that comes through, that or something that happens and you need to process it, but you process it. It's like, the Buddhists, when they talk about emotions or thoughts like clouds going through the sky. You don't try to hold on to them, you let them pass through, right? And remember that there's endless possibilities for what's going on, and there's, as far as whether or not anything's good or bad, that's, you know, that Chinese proverb, not maybe a proverb, but Alan Watts used to talk about it, where the Chinese farmer, all these things are happening, and everyone's, oh, too bad, and he's like, maybe, and then it turned out that looked pretty good, but then it's like he's still like maybe, waiting to see if that really was the case. But the point is that you don't know necessarily, right? At the time, that loss of a relationship was the most devastating thing that could ever happen, right? But 5 years later, it's like, wow, if I'd have stayed with them, that would have been, really limiting to my growth, right? Or they weren't treating you right or something, and you were putting up with it, and then you grew as a soul, you expanded your consciousness, you leaned into your authenticity, and you wouldn't take that kind of treatment anymore. And as a collective, that's what we're doing right now with the power structures. Is we're done. We're not going to take it anymore, right? This is time we stood up and said, no, we are worth everything here. We, not just a little bit, we're everything, and we matter, the regular people in the world. And we're done with these groups, these organizations, these people with more money than sense telling everyone else what to do and controlling. A burst of magic. Yes. To me, this looks like a person coming out of this, I guess it's a lotus. It's a beautiful flower. Anyway, the expanding of consciousness is what this is talking to me about. And that's really, when we expand our consciousness, we're raising our frequency. And the more we can stay in love and compassion and not judging or getting frustrated with everything, or why do they have to do this? It's like, they do. How you choose to respond to it is what you get to do. Take a higher view, exactly. So yes, change is inevitable, even things that we would consider possibly negative change. But if you take a higher view, or wait in our linear time, wait a little bit, you'll see whether or not it was actually a bad thing, or maybe it was the best thing that could have happened, even though it caused a lot of grief at the time. But you never know. Maybe you wouldn't have grown and expanded and pursued your dreams had those things not changed, right? So let's see. A little bit more. After previously being so full of energy coming in from everywhere, the collective, Gaia, the solar energies have just been bouncing off the walls, and then you have a tendency to kind of crash and be down afterwards, kind of to rebalance things, right? But all you need to do is try to ground into Gaia, find what you're grateful for, and remember to focus in the now moment, feel into your love, whatever you enjoy doing, any dreams you may have that you want to explore. Take a higher view, and yeah, this kind of sucks, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal, right? It could be worse. As long as you're breathing, as far as the human condition, it could always be worse. So let's see. Yeah, keep your ears wide open. This speaks to me of listening to Source, whether it's through synchronicities, or if you thoughts pop into your head out of nowhere that oftentimes are a good idea. You know, anytime a thought pops into your head and it's a negative or controlling idea, you know that's coming from the lower frequencies. And frequently it's not even your energy coming through, it's coming through from others around you if you're an empath, or the collective in general, just the general mood, or maybe negative energies in the world and beyond. And so you got to listen for those out of nowhere epiphanies that come in, right? Sometimes Source speaks very quietly. It's very low, and you've got to calm down to be able to hear it. So that's why meditation is so useful. And 33, that's also Christ consciousness, not just other things. The tall tale. that talks to me about what we've been telling ourselves as a collective, a great big lie, and how those lies are getting exposed and taken away, right? Sorry, there's a fly in here. It's driving me crazy. With a spirit of gratitude. Yes, like I was saying, focusing in the gratitude, process through any grief that may come up. If being on TikTok or whatever is bringing you down constantly, get off of it, right? Or quit following whoever's constantly bringing you down. Yes, it's okay to be aware of what's going on in the world, but if it's just too much for you sometimes, then don't even look, you know. Other times you can be aware, but you don't need to be, you can send them love and compassion, but you don't need to be feeling guilty that you're not in the same, challenging situation, right? Remember to have gratitude for what you do have in your life. If you have a roof over your head, and I like the ear, roof over your head and food, you're batting 1,000 these days. So, be grateful for that, right? Remembering that all these lies, all these tall tales that have been told to us are being exposed. And yeah, you can be really surprised and shocked, and your world can be torn apart. Or you can say, I didn't see that. I didn't realize that lie. What else is out there? And you can follow that for a while and dig through all these, various conspiracy theories or whatever. And eventually you're like, okay. And just realize that all the stuff's going to be exposed, and let it go. These things will be exposed, but they don't need to just completely destroy your life. Just realize that you didn't know a lot of stuff, even though you thought you did. You might be well educated and think you know everything, and then when you realize that a lot of things have been just big old lies, that can be upsetting, but move through it. You don't have to be upset about it forever. Let it go and say, okay, yeah, be grateful for what you have. Take a higher view on, yeah, all this is collapsing down, and it's going to reveal something much more beautiful. There's like this new city kind of in the foreground or background, and it's these two people are, I don't know, it almost seems like they're trying to walk on water across there. Interesting, very much syncing with the Christ consciousness. So, the whole God is within you, God is love. So let's see what the trees have to say. Maybe I'll shuffle them a little bit first. I wasn't going to, but it feels like I want to now. Let's see. So what final word to help us keep our frequencies higher and not feel guilty about other people suffering in the world, when there's always great joy and great suffering, and you kind of need to maybe stay in the middle, or and even lean toward the joy and the gratitude and the just unconditional love. All right. We have the hazel. Isn't that beautiful? These kind of cards, this one relates to an increase in our spiritual wisdom and our awareness of the energies around us. So focusing in there again, quieting your mind with meditation, yoga, something like that, getting out of all the petty stuff going on right now, the frustrations, and focusing more in the heart. And that tends to help open the heart more, so you can bring in the spiritual wisdom, so you can hear. Remember, so you can hear source. Source is communications with you, right? So that's where you really need to do is quiet down and listen and help your spiritual growth. And I mean listen to source, not listen to all the lies being exposed. And you don't need to really take all that to heart and say, oh my gosh, I fell for that. Well, everybody fell for everything, pretty much. This whole matrix has been one heck of a dream, right? But now we're waking up, and it's time to go there, focus in, and you might even find a burst of magic coming forth. But keep that higher view, you know. Don't focus in on the smaller stuff. Help where you can, be compassionate, and kind. But sometimes there's just nothing you can do except hold space for them and be a shining light, that they can see a light out of their darkness that they're in currently. And that's the best we can do. So, if this resonated with you at all today, my cosmic soul friends, give us a like, subscribe, and go out there and try to raise your frequency today.